We are living in a post 9/11 world, crank that by Soldier Boys playing on the radio, and I'm in Mexico, comforting my sister over her stolen copy of Nintendogs. Lusting for vengeance, I snuck into my thief of a cousin's DS case, acquiring myself my first ever 2D platformer, one that would shape my opinion of the genre for years to come. A rush of excitement went over me as I finally booted up for the first time New Super Mario Bros. And after hours of playing, I remember, wow, this is the dullest, drab, downright blandest game I have ever played. I spent more time gambling with my boy Luigi or trying to catch Yoshi for tax fraud than I did actually platforming. You really wouldn't believe it, but this one pimple of a game, this one mediocre meatball of a man, had such a negative impression that I gave up on Nintendo, 2D platformers, instead going for completely different gaming experiences, like trying to recreate my own 9/11. It would take 8 years until I picked up another platformer, or even another Nintendo console. My girlfriend got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas, which was the first Nintendo console that I really sunk my teeth into. See, I had a DS and a Wii, but I mean, so did the Queen. Do you think she was playing Wii Sports? With Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey under my belt, I was eager to see what I was missing out on. I finally took the chance on a game that would completely sell me on retro games, Nintendo games, and 2D platformers. What I booted up on a Nintendo Switch was he can jump, he can dig, he can bounce like a pogo, he can punch, he can swipe, and his name's on the logo. Shovel Knight, the indie darling that wormed his way into just about everything with only 8 bits at its disposal. I must advise you not to be fooled by this retro revival. It's one thing to harken back to the past, revitalising the elements that resonated with children of the 80s and 90s, but it's much more to improve upon those that didn't. Shovel Knight is like me. He doesn't have a life, unlike Mario who has about 5. There's nothing more frustrating than dying too many times, having to start the whole stage, world, or even game all over again. Implementation of a live system is there for padding out the game's length, whilst also adding a tension builder. Knowing you've got a lot to lose is part of the experience. I believe that this tension is important to the appeal of challenging platformers. So without a live system, how does Shovel Knight still maintain that intensity? Death results in respawning at the last checkpoint and losing gold. Money in Shovel Knight is used for upgrading armour, weapons, magic, as well as purchasing various relics. These purchases will only aid the player in their endeavours, so losing money still wields that pressure found in the classics without having to replay long stretches of the game. What amplifies that pressure is that you can get your gold back. Retrieving it can be a risk in itself, as dying again will make your hard-earned cash disappear. If I was punished too harshly, I would have no doubt given up by that point. But getting sent back to the last checkpoint and losing some gold that I could potentially just get back wasn't that bad. I struggle to find just simply beating a game particularly satisfying, so to keep my interest you kinda need to do more than just offer me a few platforming challenges. The 2D games that resonate with me the most often have character progression for an upgrade system. Absolutely demolishing something with my upgraded arsenal that I previously struggled with offers a great incentive to keep exploring to see what unique things I'll get next. The most unique upgrades in Shovel Knight are the relics. Their purpose is to aid the player, whether that's with some added range with the fire wand, or some extra distance in the air with the propeller dagger. As fun as these are, they do often range from completely forgettable, like the horn, or utterly broken like the phase locket. It literally works with everything. Spikes, phase locket. Bosses, phase locket. Wife's taking custody of the kids, phase locket. Helping a struggling player I completely understand, but an invincibility item that you can toggle on whenever you want as long as you've got magic might be a step too far. See, the relics are not required to beat the game. so the level design isn't built around having them available. There are some optional areas that are built around these relics, and yeah, more of these please, though I personally think they shouldn't have cost any money, so that the player can partake in main stages that make the most of your abilities. Don't mistake that for me criticising the level design itself, however. It would be assumed that a new player would struggle with this game, as there are some challenging moments and there isn't even a tutorial. Yet just like the games of old, it doesn't need one. There are only 2 buttons needed when you begin. You jump, you stab, though it's a shovel, so you scoop. Simply pressing down in the air will also intuit that you can do this, and the feedback from these blocks show that you can bounce off them, which is something you have to keep in mind for the next room. The lack of inputs mixed with the slowly broadening level design eases the player with the mechanics. Foregoing a tutorial in a traditional sense also makes replays briskly paced, so whether you're a brand new player or a veteran, the game's got you covered. Anytime a new mechanic is shown, it's first shown in a safe environment, so it avoids any cheapness that can be found in the NES games that inspired Shovel Knight. In general, there is a complete lack of any moments that feel cheap throughout the entire adventure. There was so much thought put into the balance between accessible and challenging it can certainly be. Luckily, the difficulty curve is just perfect, as you travel from the stark silhouetted sections of the Lich Yard to the grand gears of the clock tower. The levels you traverse through are carefully crafted to offer engaging mechanics that don't overstay their welcome. Nothing that you do ever feels forced in for the sake of variety. You'll only be doing pure platforming from start to end, with plenty of collectibles, optional areas to beat, and even some cameos dependent on which version you're playing. With a new game plus, as well as some optional challenges, there is so much to offer. In platformers, gameplay is no doubt key, and in Shovel Knight, it's fantastic. But it wouldn't hurt if it had a narrative of some description. Now, I can enjoy a game without strong writing. Hell, one of my favourite games is one where monkey saves bigger monkey from crocodile, but if you do have a strong narrative, well, that's even better. Shovel Knight's companion Shield Knight has gone missing, so now our noble knight is the only one who can find her by fighting his way through the oppressive Order of No Quarter. The bosses, all knights, are themed differently, with their theming being the crux of the visual makeup of the levels. It would be simple to just wave these away as some copy and paste boss fights like the Koopalings, or some vapid, colourless characters like some sort of Koopalings, but you'd be severely wrong. These are all fairly fleshed out bosses, not differentiated by their hairstyle like some shitty Koopalings, but by their unique personalities and movesets. There's King Knight, who's not actually a king but pretends to be one, Polar Knight, a secluded somber soul who's an old friend of Shovel Knight, Treasure Knight, the accountant to the Order who only cares about gold, and many, many more. There's such an infectious charm to the world that these pixelated people inhabit, with a lot to subvert your expectations. Why wouldn't I just be walking into a shop and I get attacked by a guy who's obsessed with hats? Does any of this make sense? I mean, there's a king that's a cross between a trout and an apple. But these silly moments are dispersed by a plethora of dramatic moments, like these beautiful dream sequences that convey, through gameplay, the inner turmoil eating away at Shovel Knight. This game really is the full package, and the best thing is, if you really don't care about the story, you can skip all of it. Shovel Knighty sure is mighty, so for this shovel on face action, this needs music that really gets the blood pumping. Invoking an erratic energy, these compositions just hit so hard, masterfully masking the tone of their associated levels. with flying machines opening having an almost otherworldly sound to it. Complementing the location of being high in the sky before bridging into a melody that just kinda slaps. There's the first stage that has this adventurous, airy, upbeat sound to it. This entire OST has such a gleeful jig to it that I cannot stop bobbing my head to. Shovel Knight really is the perfect blend of what came before and what is current. I recommend Shovel Knight wholeheartedly, as it is a game that truly opened my eyes to the heights of the genre.
But wait! There's more!
He can jump, he can craft, he has a shy persona, he can bomb, he can dance, and it's all to woo Mona. Plague Knight Plague of Shadows may seem like just a free Shovel Knight expansion, but not only was it longer than the main game, the completely different moveset offers a completely fresh experience. Plague Knight can throw bombs, but holding the bomb button down propels you through the air. This is how you traverse through the levels. There thankfully is some wiggle room, as throwing bombs whilst in mid-air does keep you from plummeting to your death. These aids become imperative, as Plague Knight is very chaotic to control. I think the biggest blunder is that all the levels are catered to Shovel Knight's gameplay and not Plague Knight's. Annoyingly, the very scarce new sections make excellent use of the moveset options that Plague Knight has, so the devs were probably better off just making brand new stages. Your relic equivalent, the Arcana, do help negate some of the control issues, but the best thing that you have at your arsenal are the bombs. These can be fully customizable with different properties that you can swap out for different situations. Maybe you want them to seek out an enemy like a sentry, maybe you want them to just make the biggest explosion, maybe you want them to have an upward trajectory to hit some of the higher up enemies. The choice is completely up to you, and there always seems to be a different bomb type for different situations, but unfortunately because these are optional, just like the relics, that you can just fly by on the basic bomb setup that you start with. Shovel Knight's story was the extra icing on top of an already delicious cake, but the story in Plague Knight's campaign is kind of the main reason to play it. Taking place concurrently with the other campaign, Plague Knight is taking the essences from the other knights to concoct the ultimate potion that will make him strong enough to win the heart of his partner in crime, Mona. It's the continuity that I love about the narrative, like seeing Shovel Knight walking around town as Plague Knight is in his underground lab, or getting the relics and giving them to Chester so he can later sell them to Shovel Knight. Or like the Plague Knight stage where instead of fighting Plague Knight you fight who else, who's equipped with all his relics. I find Plague Knight oddly endearing. I mean, just look at him dance. Sure, he's only attacking other men so he can make her Mona, but you cannot be mad at that face. I do still prefer Shovel Knight's campaign, but Plague Knight is still worth playing. Is Shovel Knight's campaign the best thing this package has to offer? Not even close. He can jump, he can slice, he can skate like Tony, he can climb, he can heal, and his bod's all bony. Spectre Knight's campaign is not a carbon copy of Shovel Knight's with some extra bells and whistles, but something completely new. Scrapping the overworld, Spectre of Torment instead has a hub in which you can enter the stages in any order. Dropping the linearity has its risks, yet the difficulty felt just perfectly balanced. Stages often go through a linear difficulty curve anyway, so not one stage felt off kilter. The planes you do have to play through regardless, so there's still that teaching through level design that the series has just nailed at this point. Interspliced with these stages are sections that are the basis for the story's many flashbacks. See, Spectre Knight wasn't always the cold corpse he's portrayed as. Whatever happened to him in the past clearly bothers him, as he's often caught reminiscing. The black and white aesthetic is such a great touch, and it's so interesting to see the story unfold, seeing through gameplay the bond between Spectre Knight and his friend Lewin. The artist formerly known as Donovan has since been ordered by the Enchantress to round up a group of knights to be part of her evil order. But of course, things aren't always as simple as they might seem. If it wasn't obvious, this is a prequel to the other campaigns. The difference in the world is less illustrated in the visuals and more in the game's music. Every single track has been completely remixed. In fact, I'd say that they've been improved. Listen to just how vamped up the Lichyard stage is. How about Pridemore Keep, that is yet to be fully corrupted by the Order, manifesting a more merry melody? All the tracks have a faster tempo, but just makes the action you're performing so much more thrilling. Now the level design is completely different to Shovel Knight, perfectly complementing Spectre Knight's movement, which is like nothing I've ever seen. You can run up walls and ledges, there are some contact sensitive points that you can slice to propel yourself through the air. There is such speed, style and finesse to how he just powers through the levels, being my favourite character to control so far. The curios that are the relics in this game, I honestly forgot to use most of the time, because the base toolkit is perfect for really any situation. One nice touch is that you do actually purchase them with collectibles and not money, so it rewards exploration more than it rewards not dying, which you'll probably do quite a bit because this is yet again another challenging game to play through. There is even a tutorial of sorts when you do buy a curio, that shows off the different scenarios that they might be useful in, whether it's the dark dramatic story, the hard-hitting music, or the gameplay that is just so fantastic. This seriously blows the other two campaigns out the water, and the best thing is, this isn't even the final campaign that was made for this whole collection. He can bash, he can spin, he's gonna die alone, but he doesn't care as long as he gets that throne. Wanting to be the king of literally anything, King Knight wants to beat the judges of a card game called Joustus, to be dubbed the King of Cards. Unfortunately, the small print doesn't elaborate on how these judges are beaten, so there's a lot less dealing cards and a lot more dealing damage. Now somehow, they did it again. They've made a completely unique playstyle I've never seen before engaging to play. Shoulder barging into an enemy or an object causes King Knight to spin. Spinning can be used to bounce off or destroy parts of the environment. It appears counterintuitive at first, but you get into this zen-like flow state that becomes cathartic to conquer any level, and there are a lot of levels to conquer. The number of stages has easily tripled, instead going for shorter levels but drop mechanics not long after they're introduced, keeping a fresh flow to the adventure, especially after 3 campaigns comprised of longer levels. Some stages even have hidden exits that open up additional levels. These secrets, along with the secrets of the entire series really, are delicately designed to be easy to find if you know what you're looking for, which for my completionist mentality is exactly what I like to see. There are even full stages just dedicated to the use of each of the heirlooms, which are this campaign's version of the relics. These purchases are purchased with this campaign's collectible, which you usually purchase on your airship. Which not only comes with a great theme song, but it also comes with an ever-expanding crew. One of my favourites is King Pridemore, who really wants to bang your mum. King Knight lives at home with his mother, who is constantly being thirsted over, despite how much King Knight is begging him to stop. As you can tell, this is not a narrative that takes itself seriously at all. Even if King Knight is an entitled dick, I still find it so funny to watch him goof around. Somehow, this completely free campaign has so much more to offer than all the other campaigns. New aesthetics like the Truple Pond and the Burder Mountain offer fresh visuals, with the latter having a great accompanying track. There's even a secret boss in this game that had my jaw on the floor. There's such an additional polish to this expansion, not to mention the attention to detail, like you can buy this armour that just makes you walk around like a boss, or you can upgrade your ship to make it look and sound even better. The biggest addition to this campaign is no doubt the card game Joustus. Now I need to address straight off the bat that this is not needed at all to beat the game. Not a single card game needs to be played to see the credits. As a compulsive completionist though, yeah, you kinda want to collect all the cards. It's a simple to understand but difficult to master kind of card game that you'll want to win in order to take the opponent's cards to strengthen your deck. You'll find yourself approaching pretty much everyone trying to play a game of cards, including a lot of familiar faces. At first, I was admittedly very skeptical, but the card game is too much fun to pass up, with plenty of rewards that don't just help you with the card game itself, but also help you with a lot of the platforming. So I'd recommend giving it a go. Now you may have noticed that I've been extremely light when it comes to spoilers. And that's because I really don't want to give anything away. Hell, I didn't even mention the 4-player fighting game that's part of this package. I can't believe that's a thing as well. I'd honestly say do pick this up if you haven't already. Considering how low the price is, you'd be surprised how much it has to offer. Every time they released an expansion, it was not only free, but longer and better than the last. I was never a fan of 2D platformers growing up, and I kind of gave up on the genre. But this one indie game led me to playing other incredible games like Donkey Kong Country, Super Metroid, as well as a bevy of other titles. Tell me what your favourite platformers are, and if you think I've earned it, please subscribe. If there's one thing you can take away from this video, it's that just because you might not like a particular game, doesn't mean you should just dismiss the genre entirely. So you get on with some shoveling action, whilst I work hard on the next video.